All right, we're going to look at John chapter 21, the very verses that Ryan talked about towards the end. Oh, she found it. Yeah. All right. I love this story. Afterwards, Jesus appeared again to the disciples by the Sea of Galilee. It happened this way, just in case you wanted to know how it happened. Simon Peter, Thomas, Nathanael, and the sons of Zebedee and 2 other disciples were together. Peter said, "I'm going out fishing." And they said, "We'll go with you." It's a very complicated conversation. So they go out, and all night long, they had the perfect night. They caught nothing. Early in the morning, Jesus was on the shore. The disciples didn't realize that it was him, and he called out to them, "Hey friends, did you catch anything?" Do you know fishermen hate that question when they haven't caught anything?
That's true.
No, they answered. You could hear the disgust in their voice. And Jesus said, "Throw your net out on the right side of the boat, and you will catch some." So they did. And they were unable to haul the net in because of the large number of fish. Then the disciples whom Jesus loved said to Peter, "It's the Lord." As soon as Simon Peter heard him say that, he wrapped his outer garment around him and jumped into the water. The other disciples followed in the boat, towing the net full of fish, for they were not far from shore, about 100 yards. When they landed, they saw a fire of burning coals, and there were fish on it and some bread. And Jesus said to them, "Bring some of the fish you've caught." So Simon Peter climbed back into the boat and dragged the net ashore. It was full of large fish, 153 to be exact. But even with so many, the net was not torn. And Jesus said to them, "Come and have breakfast." None of the disciples dared ask him, "Who are you?" They knew it was the Lord. When they had finished eating, Jesus said to Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" And Peter said, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." And Jesus said, "Feed my lambs." Again, Jesus said, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" And he answered, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." And Jesus said, "Take care of my sheep." And the third time he said to him, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" And Peter was hurt because Jesus asked him for the third time, "Do you love me?" And he said, "Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you." And Jesus said, "Feed my sheep. Truly I tell you, when you were younger, you dressed yourself and went where you wanted. But when you are old, you will stretch out your hand, and someone else will dress you and lead you where you do not want to go." And Jesus said this to indicate the kind of death by which Peter would glorify God. And he said to him, "Follow me." Now I have to tell you, I have probably preached on this text 50 or 60 times. When you've preached as long as I have, right, sometimes there are texts that just stand out to you. I've also heard 100 sermons on this text. And I never get tired of telling this story. You see, it helps us to ask a few questions. And your first question today is, have you ever had a moment in your life you wish you could take back?
Oh, yeah.
Just one?
And then the second question is, how many is that? It is baseball season, and those of you who know me know that I do love baseball. And I love to watch pitchers. and I've been around enough and long enough to tell you that Major League Baseball pitchers can remember clearly the pitches they wish they had never thrown, because they end up 400 feet in the stadium.
Should have just hit the guy.
We make a decision and wish we had made a different one. We speak a word, and before it gets to the end of the room, you're wishing you could reach out and grab it and bring it back, because you know it's not going to have the effect you wanted. You've failed at something you thought you had down pat. Something you replay in your mind thinking, if only I could do this again. If only I could replay it. If only I could have one more opportunity to say or do the right thing. If I could just do that over. Well, friends, that's where Peter is in this text. That's where Peter is living. He's seen the risen Lord, but he really hasn't, according to any of the disciples, had really any real interaction with him. Peter knows that things aren't the way they're supposed to be, and he knows why. Because he wishes that that one moment, those 3 moments, could be replayed. The moment he declared impossible. The moment he said, no way will I ever do that. But we all know that not just once, but 3 times, Peter denies knowing Jesus. I don't know him. I don't know why you think I would know him. And now, Jesus is alive. Jesus is actually more than alive. He's staring into his face. He's focused. And he has to face you. And maybe you know that feeling too. The weight of failure. The question, what does God do with me now? Because it's still true. Just like we've been saying all along here. We are living between what Jesus has done and what God is going to do. We're living right in the midst of reality and possibility. We're living in a place that oftentimes carries with it the significant weight of regret. If only. If only. If only we could do it differently. If only we could change what we did. If only we could relive it and replay it and make it right. In verse 15, we find out, though, that our regret, our failure is not the end word. Jesus came back to Peter. He didn't let Peter just hide. I maintain that he was really trying to hide and not really engage, but how many of you have ever had that feeling where you just wanted to, but you're over here going, but I can't. I don't want to. Oh, I better not. I don't want to make it worse. Many of you have that. If I engage, is it going to be more painful? If if I enter back into the conversation, is he going to point out how wrong I've been? Because we don't like that, and we're afraid of it. Jesus comes back to Peter, Jesus comes back to us after our failures. When they had finished eating, Scripture says, Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, and I love this because he makes it really clear. All the disciples are there, or at least a good number of them. All of them know what Peter had done. All of them know what they had done. Because you see, Peter gets all of the glory of this story, but they were all a part of it. Do you love me, Simon, more than these? And I think Jesus did this in the room. Do you love me more than these? More than your brother Andrew? More than your friends James and John? Do you love me more than Nathaniel and Peter? I think Peter's feeling excited because he knows the answer to that. He looks at Jesus and says, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. Imagine that setting. Did you see Peter at the back of the room? Yes, he'd rushed in to see him. He'd probably even hugged him and acknowledged him. But now, Jesus is doing a terrible thing. Jesus is looking at him. You know that look. That look from eyes when you know you have failed miserably, and whoever you failed is about to engage you. Wow. You see, I think it's kind of interesting. If we had been Jesus, we would have avoided Peter like the plague. We'd have been, like with the kids up here, I said, grace or forgiveness, not so much. But Jesus doesn't avoid Peter. In fact, he looks at him square in the eyes and says, do you love me? And not just once, because once was easy. You know, Lord, I love you. And I think as soon as those words came out of Peter's mouth, I think Peter thought it was okay. Boy, that was easy. And then Jesus does something that we really hate. Because he looks at Peter and says, Simon, do you really love me? That second question. And I love the fact, in all of the story here, Jesus is so unlike the rest of us. Because here's how our conversation with Peter would go. So, Peter, do you love me? And yes. Well, why did you fail? How many of us? That's us. Not Jesus. Jesus never once says to Peter, why did you fail? Why did you run away? Why did you deny me? Why did you let them nail me to the cross? He says, do you love me? Important lesson. Jesus is never, ever, ever looking to shame you for who you are and what you've done. Never. We know that because the one guy Jesus could have really laid out on a slab, he says, do you love me? He re-engages him. This is a big question today. Where have we felt like we failed God? Most of the people in this room, I'm going to tell you, have felt like we have failed God. Because we have. I mean, it's not like we haven't. But what we see in this story is that what we've done isn't really what's important to Jesus. It's who we're going to become that's important. Remember? From here to here. Jesus spends his time in this conversation with Peter restoring what was broken. He asked him 3 questions, really just one question 3 times. I don't know about you, but my kids hated it when I did that to them. I don't think Peter was very happy. You know, Lord, I love you. Yes, Lord, I love you. Lord, are you not listening? I love you. The questions weren't coincidences. How many times did Peter deny? 3. How many times does he need restored? 3. Jesus meets Peter at the point of his failure. Jesus meets us at the point of our failures. And he rewrites the moment. He doesn't ignore our failure, he redeems it. It's like a wound. You ever get a wound on your hand or your arm and it heals and then you bump it against something and it heals and bump it again. All the time. You gotta let it heal. It's tender when it's healing until it's finally restored. And that brings us to another question, maybe a better question. What if our worst moment isn't the end of our story? What if your worst moment isn't the end of your story? My worst moment, the end of the story. You see, love comes before calling. Did you hear the questions? They were asked specifically. Do you love me? Yes, Lord, I love you. Then feed my sheep. Do you love me? Yes, Lord. Then care for the sheep. He says, do you love me? Before he tells us how to respond. Jesus cares more about your love than our performance. Jesus is not up in our lives telling us you have to do better. He's saying, do you love me? A lot of times we try to prove ourselves to God. I always thought that was interesting. I'm going to prove myself to God. I'm going to love him. I'm going to serve him. I'm going to do everything. And then you just get wore out. Because you can't prove yourself to God. Doesn't matter who you are. Doesn't matter what you do. You cannot prove yourself to God. You can only love him. You can only follow him. You see, failure does not cancel your calling. Your failure, and if you don't believe me, think about King David for a minute. King David fails. He sins with Bathsheba. He kills Bathsheba's husband. He's awful. Until Nathan says, do you love Jesus? Do you love God? Peter, do you love me? Yes, Lord, you know that I love you. Notice that God does not challenge Peter to serve him until after he's been reinstated through love. Peter becomes the rock after reinstatement, not before denial. So Peter failed. Jesus restored him. And then Jesus called him to act. And because it's still true that we're living between what Jesus has done and where God is going to work, we need to ask a question. Because there's space there. And we can either, in that space, live in regret or in love. One of the things that this story teaches us is that failure is never final.
Hallelujah. That's
Amen.
one.
All right.